Hey everyone, welcome back to Main Character Syndrome. I'm one of your hosts, Alyssa, also known as the Redhead, and
I am your other host now, Danielle Osborne, also known as
Beans.
the whodunit detective, the aspiring Nancy Drew.
I love the aspiring Nancy Drew, the Nancy Drew wannabe.
Yeah, so once again, we get the best of both worlds here.
Love it. Also, the hopeless romantic.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to talk about romance today.
Exactly. That is the theme of today, especially it is summer. It is hot. It is time to get hot and heavy with the summer rom-coms.
Ooh, I like that little intro for it. Getting hot and heavy in the summer.
And things are about to get hot in
yeah,
here.
And you've pushed me into some of these hot and heavy books. So
I may have.
So I have a few today, and I know this is basically like your episode. I'm sure you could do like an hour and a half, 2 hour solo episode on all of your hot and heavy rom-com books. So let's just jump into this.
Yeah.
And tell me what your first is.
Okay, I will tell you. Obviously, I have to mention the queen of rom-coms, Emily Henry. So she has People We Meet on Vacation. She has Happy Place. And now she just came out with Funny Story. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what Funny Story is about. It's on my TBR. I have not read it. It's literally on my shelf as we speak. So I've just got a list that I just haven't gotten to it yet, but I will. I promise. And then I will tell you guys about it. So the synopsis is, Daphne always loved the way her fiancé Peter told their story, how they met on a blustery day, fell in love over an errant hat, and moved back to his lakeside hometown to begin their life together. He really was good at telling it, right up until the moment he realized he was actually in love with his childhood best friend, Petra. First of all, we have Peter, who's in love with Petra.
Peter and Petra.
Peter and Petra. Interesting. That's all I had to say about that.
Say that fast 10 times.
Peter and Petra. Peter and Petra. Peter and Petra. Peter and Petra.
Okay, because I'm not even going to try.
That is hard. That's difficult. Continuing on, which is how Daphne begins her new story. Stranded in beautiful Waning Bay, Michigan, without friends or family, but with a dream job as a children's librarian that barely pays the bills, and proposing to be roommates with the only person who could possibly understand her predicament, Petra's ex, Miles Nowak. Oh, this is getting interesting. Scruffy and chaotic with a penchant for taking solace in the sounds of heartbreak love ballads, Miles is exactly the opposite of practical, buttoned-up Daphne, whose co-workers know so little about her, they have a running bet that she's either FBI or in witness protection. The roommates mainly avoid one another until one day, while drowning their sorrows, they form a tenuous friendship and a plan. If said plan also involves posting deliberately misleading photos of their summer adventures together, well, who could blame them? But it's all just for show, of course, because there's no way Daphne would actually start her new chapter by falling in love with her ex-fiance's new fiance's ex, right?
Whoa.
That is
I'm going to need a family tree.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's what pulled me in.
Good.
I was like, it sounds like there might be like found family. There might be, I don't know if it's an enemies to lovers, but it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like this new territory.
Yeah, new territory. It's the ex-fiance's fiance's ex, or her ex-fiance's new fiance's ex.
I'm going to need a piece of paper.
Yes, that's a lot of math. That's just not mathing for me.
It's not mathing for me in my head, but it sounds really good, really interesting. I love a little chaos.
Yes, I love chaos, and I love like the tension and the buildup with characters. So I'm excited to see how this pans out.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Do you have any?
I do, and I've actually read this one, and so have you. And I think we both recommend it to people, and it is The Summer of Broken Rules.
Oh, yes.
By K.L. Walther. And the synopsis, kind of short and sweet almost, I guess.
We love a short and sweet synopsis.
Right? Meredith Fox has been going to Martha's Vineyard for this summer as long as she can remember, but this summer is the first one back since the death of her sister. It will all be overwhelming, as we can imagine, but even more since the entire extended family will be together for her cousin's wedding. Unfortunately, Meredith's longtime boyfriend unexpectedly dumped her 2 weeks before the wedding, leaving her
Oof.
dateless. Luckily, she has the perfect distraction. Her family has a tradition of playing the ultimate game of assassin every summer, and this year it will take place during the week of wedding festivities.
Love it.
But her target has just happened to be a very cute groomsman, but as the week progresses, she can't help falling for him, which may cost her not only the game, but also her heart.
I love everything about this.
It was a really, really good book.
Yeah.
Like, you have, like, the main character, Meredith Fox, who, I mean, is wrestling with her sister's death and kind of coming back to this place where they had so many wonderful memories. And you see, like, a lot of character growth. And Assassin was kind of her sister's game. And so they kind of do this. I'm not really spoiling anything. They kind of do this in honor of the sister. But I do also want to mention a whole week of wedding festivities. I'm like, how rich are you people? Like, I can't relate.
No.
A wedding on Martha's Vineyard for a week of festivities. Everyone has all of these houses.
Right.
I'm like, give me a call. Let me join your family.
Give me a call. Can we be friends?
But I made some notes for this book. And once again, these aren't any spoilers or anything. But kind of the theme throughout is I was like, holy cow, this ex-boyfriend sucks.
Yeah.
Like, the audacity to break up with her. And then he says, but don't worry, we're not going to work out, but I'll still be your +1 to the wedding.
No, boy, bye.
No.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
There's the door.
Yeah.
I'll kick you out if I need to. Like, what?
But then kind of like the out of touchness with Meredith, in the sense, like, as someone who's planned a wedding, and as many people, everyone really who's planned a wedding knows, she, like, did the ultimate, like, #1 rule that you don't do. She tells the bride, like, the week of, when she gets to all these festivities, like, oh, by the way, my boyfriend broke up with me, so I know you gave me a +1, but I actually don't need him anymore. I don't have a date. But it's
never
like,
do that.
Don't
you
do
never
that.
Know. You
like,
never know.
she's known for, like, a while, and she just, like, didn't tell her. And I'm like, girlfriend, that girl is paying for all of that still. Like, she's paying for this +1's food, his drinks. Like,
you better bring someone.
Right?
Find
someone. Like, now this is all going to waste.
Yeah,
like,
especially now that you're a single girl. Like,
yeah, I was like, girlfriend, that's really inconsiderate.
a little bit.
So don't do that. Like, it's totally fine if it happens, like, the week of. But the fact that she knew and then just, like, didn't tell her.
Yeah.
Like, there's a seating chart.
There is a seating chart.
So, anyways.
You would know.
But then,
you know.
Oh, I know. There's so much. I had a wedding planner, and let me tell you.
That must be nice.
It was, but you still do a lot of work.
I mean,
she was like a partial planner. So there are some packages I'm sure that you can do
that
are like, they do everything, and I'm sure it's fantastic. But mine was just a partial, and you still do a lot.
Just to be able to have some helping hands. I mean, I feel like it's just a little overwhelming. I've never been married, so I don't know.
Shout out to Courtney. She was amazing. Our wedding planner, phenomenal. But also there was a funny moment in the book. Once again, not spoiling anything.
It's like all in the beginning.
Yeah. Where I laughed because I did feel a little old at one point in this book, because as a millennial, like, we've been with Taylor Swift
for a long time.
Since the beginning. And there's a line in the book where it says, like, that she was introduced this summer, like 2 summers ago, to Taylor Swift's earliest albums. And she's like, she's going into college, and she goes, like, yeah, 2 summers ago we were introduced to Taylor Swift's earliest albums. And I was
my God.
I was like,
I'm so old.
I was like, oh, we lived through that.
Yeah. We lived through debut.
Yeah. So that was just a funny moment where I was like, great, I feel a little old right now.
Great. Now it's time to go get some Botox. Amazing. Okay.
But it was a really good book, and I totally recommend it.
Yeah, I love everything about it. So definitely add that to your TBR. Next, I have The Unhoneymooners on my list. I have not read this one. It's on my TBR. It is 3.9 stars on Goodreads, and this is the synopsis. Olive is always unlucky in her career, in love, in, well, everything. Her identical twin sister, Ami, on the other hand, is probably the luckiest person in the world. Her meet cute with her fiancé is something out of a romantic comedy gag, and that's in the description. That's not me, I swear. And she's managed to finance her entire wedding by winning a series of internet contests. Double gag. Again, not me.
Oh, sick. That's
Worst
cool.
of all, she's forcing Olive to spend the day with her sworn enemy, Ethan, who just happens to be the best man. Now, Olive braces herself to get through 24 hours of wedding hell before she can return to her comfortable, unlucky life. But when the entire wedding party gets food poisoning from eating bad shellfish, the only people who aren't affected are Olive and Ethan. And now there's an all expenses paid honeymoon in Hawaii up for grabs. Putting in their mutual hatred aside for the sake of a free vacation, Olive and Ethan head for paradise, determined to avoid each other at all costs. Yeah, like that's going to work. But when Olive runs into her future boss, the little white lie she tells him is suddenly at risk to become a whole lot bigger. She and Ethan now have to pretend to be loving newlyweds, and her luck seems worse than ever. But the weird thing is, she doesn't mind playing pretend. In fact, she is feeling kind of lucky.
Wow.
This sounds really good. It sounds
That
like an
does sound
enemies
good.
to lovers, but it also sounds like kind of like a fake dating kind of trope.
Yeah. And you and I, we both have our beach shirts on right now.
We're in our Hawaiian print.
We're in our Hawaiian feels.
We're in our Hawaiian state of mind. We're in our vacation mode, our vacation era, if you will.
Hey, here's a question for you. Where do you think you want to go for your honeymoon?
For my honeymoon, if I ever get married, Greece. I would love to go to Santorini or Athens.
Yeah, that's a good one. We went to Hawaii.
Did you?
We did. I feel like that's basic, but I am unashamed because we had the most amazing honeymoon in Kauai. And it was so romantic.
I don't think that's basic at all. I think Hawaii is just so romantic.
It really is. Like, if you want to go somewhere where you can relax, but there's also like a bunch of stuff to do. So like you can lay on the beach, you can go hiking on a mountain, you can go see a volcano. We went hiking through the Grand Canyon of Hawaii is what they call it. We took a helicopter tour around the island and saw all of these waterfalls.
Girl, you were giving me FOMO.
We went on a sunset dinner cruise. We saw like 8 rainbows just alone on this cruise.
All right, who wants to marry me?
Right?
I'm just saying, like, so let's go.
Like this honeymooners honeymooning basically in Hawaii. Let me tell you, that's going to be romantic.
Yes, I'm excited to read this one. It's been on my TBR for a while, and I think this summer is just the perfect time to crack open that book and get into it.
Yeah. I have been reading a book. I'm still reading it. I'm almost done right now. But it's a bit different. It's called The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Bannon. And it's kind of like a romantasy.
Ooh, I love romantasy. You know me.
Yeah. So it kind of goes like this. Hart is a marshal tasked with patrolling the strange and magical wilds of Tanria. It's an unforgiving job, and Hart's got nothing but time to ponder his loneliness. Mercy never has had a moment to herself. She's been single-handedly keeping Birdstall and Son undertakers afloat in defiance of sullen jerks like Hart, who seem to have a gift for showing up at the right time when her patience is the thinnest. After yet another exasperating run-in with Mercy, Hart finds himself penning a letter addressed to simply a friend. Much to his surprise, an anonymous letter comes back in return, and a tentative friendship and a love is born. If only Hart knew he's been bearing his soul to the person who infuriates him the most. Mercy. As the dangers from Tanria grow closer, so do the unlikely correspondence. But can their blooming romance survive the fated discovery that their pen pals are their worst nightmares? Each other.
That sounds really good. That reminds me of another book, Divine Rivals. By Rebecca Ross.
Okay, that's also on my summer TBR list.
Yes, they're both they're both writers for the newspaper, and they use their typewriters and their magical typewriters, and they go back and forth. I mean, it's not really a spoiler. I mean, it's told by dual point of view. You know, it's him, and then they find out like they've been basically being pen pals with their worst enemies. You know,
and kind of to go piggyback off of the millennial thing we were just talking about. Hopefully, many millennials out there know about the rom-com You've Got Mail,
Oh, yes.
which is one of my favorite movies. So I was a bit frustrated
Uh-huh.
at first when I was reading this book because I was like, did this author just like watch You've Got Mail and like
Mm-hmm.
write type as she was following along with the movie?
Yep.
So there were a lot of similarities for parts of the book.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, the deeper you get, it does kind of diverge. And that's where it kind of gets its
Mm-hmm.
own uniqueness, which I was really excited to get into. So that
Yeah.
made it really good. And if you do choose to read this book, the sequel to it just came out July
Ooh.
2nd. And that's called The Undermining of Twyla and Frank.
Ooh.
So you kind of can get a little bit of a series action in this summer
Oh, I'm in.
and follow this journey in this whole universe.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me of A Court of Thorns and Roses, whereas like it looks like a ripoff of Beauty and the Beast, but there's so much more to it.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to dive in a little deeper.
Yeah, dive in a little deeper and it kind of finds its own way.
Absolutely. Going on a little bit of a spicier route for a rom-com, obviously Miss Tessa Bailey is known to write some spicy novels. I don't know if you've read any of hers. I read Fixer Upper and I was blushing most of the time. But this one is called It Happened One Summer, and it is 3.95 stars on Goodreads. I have not read this yet. I've read some of her other books, which is why I know some of the contents.
Yeah.
And it goes like this. Piper Bellinger is fashionable, influential, and her reputation as a wild child means the paparazzi are constantly on her heels. When too much champagne and an out-of-control rooftop party lands Piper in the slammer, her stepfather decides enough is enough. So he cuts her off and sends Piper and her sister to learn some responsibility running their late father's dive bar in Washington. Piper hasn't even been in Westport for 5 minutes when she meets big bearded sea captain Brendan, who thinks she won't last a week outside of Beverly Hills. So what if Piper can't do math and the idea of sleeping in a shabby apartment with bunk beds gives her hives? How bad could it really be? She's determined to show her stepfather and the hot, grumpy local that she is more than a pretty face. Except it's a small town, and everywhere she turns, she bumps into Brendan. The fun-loving socialite and the gruff fisherman are polar opposites, but there's an undeniable attraction. This is interesting, simmering between them. Piper doesn't want any distractions, especially feelings for a man who sails off into the sunset for weeks at a time. Yet, as she reconnects with her past and begins to feel at home in Westport, Piper starts to wonder if the cold, glamorous life she knew is what she truly wants. LA is calling her name, but Brendan and this town full of memories may have already caught her heart.
That sounds good.
It does sound good. It sounds like rich heiress gets humbled. You know, she
Mhm.
spends too much of daddy's money and then gets kind of
Yeah.
like exiled off to this small town.
Mhm.
But then it's also like Grumpy Sunshine, where like she's this fun-loving child, almost like heiress, and then this gruff fisherman, kind of grumpy guy.
Mhm.
And then it's kind of like opposites attract.
Yeah. My biggest fear with like a lot of rom-coms is like the ending might be predictable.
Yeah.
Or like there's not kind of twists. And that's
Mhm.
kind of why I've like stayed away from the rom-com genre for
Mhm.
so long, because I like to just kind of be thrown in all directions.
Mhm.
But I mean, it sounds like a really good book.
Yeah, it sounds kind of cute. There's definitely probably going to be some spice in there. So if spice is your thing, Tessa Bailey is your author.
Spice. Oh, I'm blushing just thinking about it. Yikes.
Oh, nothing beats when we talked about the throne scene for Iron Flame in
Oh,
a
yeah.
couple episodes past.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
There was a little bit of spice too in the undertaking of Heart and Mercy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, there's a couple sex scenes in there, and I was like, wasn't expecting that.
Again, we're adults. If you're going to read an adult book and it's got romance in it, there's probably going to be a sex scene. If you're not into that, maybe read like a young adult.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, you're an adult reading an adult book. If it's got romance in it, you're not probably going to get fade to
You're
black.
going to hear some dirty words.
You're going to see some dirty words, probably. Word thoughts and sentences are hard. Probably one that starts with a C.
Oh, God.
It's way overused in smut and spicy books, but
Yeah.
they keep using it, and it
Yeah.
keeps giving me the cringe every time.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited to read this book.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm kind of a person, I don't always like to read the most mainstream books or like the
Hmm.
books that people are always recommending. But don't get me wrong, I still do. So
Yeah, you're
I'm
not like
not,
a book talk girly. You want to find them on your own and like
yeah,
decide for yourself whether or not it's good or not.
yeah. So I found this one. I think it's starting to gain in popularity though. So it's called How to End a Love Story.
Ooh,
And it's by Yulin Quang, maybe. Apologize for potentially butchering your last name.
that's okay.
But let me double check, make sure I'm correct. Yeah, I think that this might be her first book.
Ooh.
However, I do also believe that it was recommended by Reese Witherspoon's book club. So I
Oh,
really
yes.
think it's starting to gain a lot more popularity.
Hmm.
But I also think that's a great sign. I mean, it's her first book,
Yeah,
and she made Reese Witherspoon's book club
that's
list.
amazing. And
Yeah.
I love that Reese Witherspoon, again, words, thoughts, and sentences are hard today.
Mm-hmm.
Reese Witherspoon, I love that she is taking a lot of these debut authors and showing their books on her
Yeah.
platform and giving them some attention.
Yeah. And so I have high hopes for this one. This is certainly a very long synopsis, so I'm going to try to not read all of this.
Buckle up, grab a
Um,
beverage, and enjoy the ride.
Yeah. Helen hasn't seen Grant Shepard once in the 13 years since the tragic accident that bound their lives together forever. Now a best-selling author, Helen pours everything into her career. She's even scored a coveted spot in the writer's room on the TV adaptation of her popular young adult novels. And if she can hide her imposter syndrome and overcome her writer's block, surely the rest of her life will fall into place too. LA's the fresh start she needs. After all, no one knows her there except ...
Mm.
Now, Grant has done everything in his power to move on from the past, including building a life across the country. And while the panic attacks have never quite gone away, he's well liked around town as a screenwriter. He knows he shouldn't have taken the job on Helen's show. Oh no.
Oh.
But it will open doors to developing his own projects that he just can't pass up. Grant's exactly as Helen remembers him, charming, funny, popular, and Helen's exactly as Grant remembers too, brilliant, beautiful, and closed off. Working together's messy and electrifying. And
Ooh.
Helen's parents, who have never forgiven Grant, have no idea he's in the picture of it all. When secrets come to light, they must reckon with the fact that theirs was never meant to be any kind of love story. And yet, the key to making peace with their past and themselves might just lie in holding on to each other in the present.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I would pick that up.
Yeah, it seems like a really good, easy read. But once again, this is her first novel. And
Mhm.
on Goodreads, the score for the book is 3.77, which
Oh.
I would actually consider a pretty okay to decent rating.
For a debut, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so it's kind of coming up. More people are starting to read it. So 3.77,
Not bad.
I that wouldn't keep me from picking this up. And I think I will next.
Yeah, not bad at all. Some honorable mentions. I gotta say, so Sarah Adams, who wrote the cheat sheet, came out with the rule book recently. I think in about spring. It's so funny. I have never laughed so hard reading a book,
Ooh, I
but
like
it's
that.
got the romance in it too. It's cute. It's got like you accidentally get married in Vegas vibes, and he's a football player. She's an agent, a sports agent. So it's a good book.
Mm-hmm.
It's really funny. So that's one of mine. And then obviously you gotta go with like the classic, The Summer I Turned Pretty. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have not.
Oh, it's such a cute. It's on Amazon Prime right now. It's a TV show, but it's a good book too. So it's a 3-book series, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I love it. It's such a cute little story. It's not only does it follow the love story of a teenager who has been in love with the neighbor at her parents' summer house in Cousins, but it also follows the journey of that boy's mom who's dealing with cancer. And so there's something for kids, but there's also something for like the adults
Yeah.
who watch it too. And so it's really, really good.
Wow.
It makes you want to cry sometimes.
Oof.
But whenever you deal with cancer, that's a heavy subject.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
less of a rom-com, but more of a cute little romance. but also just a really good book
Mm-hmm.
that I recommend. Do you have any honorable mentions?
In my rom-coms, not
Mhm.
really. Not yet, I should say.
I
just
will
because,
get you into rom-coms,
yeah,
I
just because
swear.
this is your genre. So I
Yeah.
was like, I'm going to let you do your thing. And you're kind of honestly introducing me to a lot of these ones.
Uh-huh.
So I
But
was
they
like,
sound good, don't
yeah. So I was
they?
like, I need to find some maybe that Alyssa hasn't read. So I
be
can
hard.
bring her into some rom-com books that I think she'll like.
Yes. I haven't read all of them, so I'm excited to see what you pick out.
There's a lot of rom-coms out there.
There are some that are just not good.
There are.
There was one that you read that you didn't like. Was it One Italian Summer?
Yes. One Italian Summer. It's like, I think I never got all the way through it. So
She
I can't
DNF'd it.
yeah,
Ooh.
I can't give you a full synopsis, but I mean, in the beginning, first chapter, she's like to her husband, like, okay, we're over. She's going through a life crisis. Her mother just passed away, and she's lost her mother, which she, I believe, calls like her greatest love.
Oh,
Which I'm
interesting.
like, I mean, I had a really great relationship with my parents and my mother.
Mhm.
We were like as tight can be. And then reading this book, I was like, this is a little weird.
Yeah, kind of strange.
A little weird. And then, yeah, she like goes to Italy and I just couldn't get into it.
Understandable. And some people have like different tastes too. So what might not work for you might work for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I love about books and the versatility of them is like, not everyone's going to like them, but someone will.
Someone will.
Someone will. Someone will pick it up.
Yeah.
So that was our rom-com episode of MCS. So if you guys have any recommendations you would like us to check out, follow us on Instagram, follow us on social media, Main Character Syndrome Pod. You also have an Instagram handle?
Beans Davis.
And I have one I just recently created called Alyssa the Redhead, READ head. So I thought that was kind of clever.
It's punny.
It's punny. For now, I guess we'll leave you with these parting words to the readers who listen. We'll see you next time.
Bye.